My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, and that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. The wet rag, the party pooper, the killjoy. In other languages, the same concept might be described as aguafiestas in Spanish, fetard in French, guastafeste in Italian. It's a universal concept, the wet rag. Someone who refuses to share in the joy felt by those around him or her. Typically, this is in a party setting where among the others, it might provoke the question, hey, what's wrong with that person? The party pooper. In C.S. Lewis's great novel, The Great Divorce, which is a kind of allegory, he presents the image of a bus traveling from hell to the gates of heaven, like the outer court of heaven, with those in hell being given the option to tour the land and meet angels and saints of the heavenly realm. And the irony is that many of them refuse to even get off the bus. And most of those that do get off the bus and take a little tour end up turning back around and getting back on the bus heading to hell. They're wet rags, party poopers. And so even if they were let into the party of heaven, they would stew in the corner and remain obstinate in their sadness. That's kind of a central theme of the book. The refusal of many of these ghosts, as Lewis calls them, these souls from hell, to accept the invitation to heaven, choosing instead to return to their self-imposed misery. The ghosts represent kind of different human flaws and earthly attachments. They're unwilling to relinquish their cherished sins, the sins that they cling to almost as treasures, their self-pity. They're often consumed by their own perceived grievances and rights, making them unable to accept the humility required for redemption. And in some cases, some of these souls are simply too afraid to let go of the familiar, even if it's miserable, preferring the known discomforts of hell to the uncertain joy of heaven. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. A bus full of wet rags. Jesus, this image might seem a bit extreme, but I think we all know what it is like to be a party pooper, a wet rag, aguafiestas. What it's like for each of us in our struggle, sometimes to find ourselves preferring to remain stubbornly in our pride or our anger or our lust, all of which make us sad and miserable, rather than turning to you, Jesus, and receiving the joy that you want to share with us. Maybe we can think back over the last couple months. Perhaps there was a time when we got upset, and it took us a while to shake off that anger. How miserable we were. And in that time, it's as if we refused to turn around and look at Jesus, to receive his peace and his joy and his forgiveness. Isn't that amazing? That we can choose our sadness over your joy, Jesus. Or rather, we can foolishly think that we can find a better happiness outside of you. But today's gospel reminds us where true joy resides. We've been following in these days the discourse of Jesus at the Last Supper. And in this moment, he says to the apostles, "As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full." Jesus wants our joy to be full, complete, not these half joys, or often these 1/100th joys, these tiny nothing joys that last an instant and then leave us bitter or empty or cold. These tiny nothing joys that we're so often chasing. Think of the doom scroll phenomenon. Right? We're constantly looking for the next thrill. But Jesus, you want us to have nothing less than your joy, the happiness that you and the Father share. And heaven is the goal for us because heaven is the beatific vision. It is that full unity with God, face to face, being with the one we love completely. Thomas Aquinas, in the Summa Theologia, he talks about joy as not merely a physical sensation. So it's not merely the joy of a healthy animal. No, joy involves the intellect and our reason. Animals can experience what we call delight, but not joy, because joy is a human experience. Joy is a rational response. It requires an intellect. And so Aquinas will also argue that joy is related to the virtue of charity. Specifically, he says that joy is an act or consequence of charity. So charity, which is our love for God, our love for one another, is the source from which joy springs. So true happiness can only be grounded in charity. That is the source from which happiness springs. And so for that reason, true joy is also not temporary. It's not fleeting. It's not based on external circumstances, like, a sunny day or the like. Of course, these things can affect our mood, but joy as an intellectual response and also as an act of faith, it's based on this deeper spiritual joy rooted in our love for you, Jesus, our love of God, our sharing in the love between the Father and the Son. This joy is enduring and deepens as we grow closer to you, Jesus, and surrender our will to you, and also as we grow closer to one another. Notice that the wet rag, the party pooper, has forgotten how to love. They are not willing to receive the love of those around them, those at the party who simply want them to enjoy themselves, to rest, to have a beer or whatever, right? To loosen them up, to share in their joy. The party pooper is unwilling to receive that love or to give that love. So those on the bus in the Great Divorce, they have become completely self-consumed, like they're consumed in themselves, self-absorbed. They've lost that charity. Lord, help us not to lose our charity and to see it as the true source of our happiness, so that we might be perennially happy. It's good that we be happy, and to share that joy, that happiness with others. That is the true mark of a Christian. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation I ask your help in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.